Hey there, if you've heard the terms automation and AI agents being thrown around but you're not sure what they are, then this video is for you. I'm going to go right back to the start and explain what an automation is, what an automation with AI is, and finally what an AI agent is. I'm going to give a few real life examples, and we're also going to build an AI agent from scratch during this video. So if you've never used automations before, they are really useful. They basically help you to tie together all of the tools that you use on a daily basis and send information back and forth between them. So if you ever find yourself copying and pasting things between apps, then automations could probably help you a lot. AI agents, on the other hand, are more of a recent development where essentially you're giving an AI access to all of these tools and asking it to do the work for you. The analogy I like to use is that an automation is similar to a teenager on work experience, and I mean a diligent teenager. You give them a checklist of things to do and they will do them time and time again very consistently, but if there are any issues, they don't know what to do. So if you're confident that your inputs will always be the same, then they should work reliably. An AI agent, on the other hand, is more like an enthusiastic graduate. You don't need to give them a checklist of things to do. You simply give them a goal and access to a number of different tools and then leave them to it. They're able to use their own initiative to complete the task. They're able to deal with edge cases and errors, and generally they can act like an intelligent being. But they're still just a graduate, they're still fairly junior, so there will be times when they will make mistakes. So it's a good idea to keep checking their work. So this is a quick diagram to demonstrate the difference. An automation, you have a trigger, so something happens, and then it sets off a series of actions in different apps where data is passed between them. An automation with an AI step, you also have trigger and you have actions, but somewhere in the mix you have an AI that does some analysis, and I'm going to give you a real example of that in a second. And then finally, with an AI agent, it can have goals, it can use inference, it has memory and tools, it can search the web, and it can choose from a number of different actions to take depending on the situation. Now, there are a number of different AI agent and automation tools out there that enable you to build these things visually. So you don't need to know how to code, you just drag and drop things onto a page. On this slide, you can see 4 of them ranging from easy to hard. Now, the tool we're going to use in this session is Zapier because I think it is the most accessible tool for building AI agents I've ever seen. The reason it's accessible is that rather than making these kind of visual flowcharts of where data goes, you just type information as if you're typing instructions to a new colleague. It's actually crazily simple. So if you've never used Zapier before, this is what it looks like. It is the world-leading tool for automations and has pre-built integrations with 8,000 or more apps, which means it can likely plug into every app you use on a daily basis. As you can see, it has a number of different features: Zaps, tables, interfaces, chatbots, canvas, and agent. Ones we're going to be looking at today are Zaps and agents. So Zaps are standard basic automations. This is an example of a simple automation or Zap. It has 3 steps in it. The trigger is when I get a new labeled email in my Gmail. I've then asked it to create a card in my Trello, and finally asked it to append text to a document in Google Docs. Adding new steps is as easy as clicking on the plus and then searching for the app you want to add in. Say I want to add Google Sheets, I just click it there, and then on the right hand side I will have to log in with my Google Sheets account and then choose the actions that I want it to take. So if we click on Gmail, you can see here in my setup, I've connected it to my Gmail. I've said when there is a new labeled email, and then in the configuration I've said when the email is starred, I want it to take this action. Then you can test the trigger and then move on to the next card. And in the next card, I've connected up my Trello and I've said I want it to create a card in my backlog. The name of the card should be the subject from the email, and the description should be email from, the name of the person who sent the email, their email address, the body of the email, and then a link to the email. So the key thing here is that in automations, you need to be very specific about the information that's being passed at each step. So you have to map it from previous steps in the automation and generally be very prescriptive about what it needs to do. Now, as you can see, this is a very linear flow. It will take the same steps every time. But what happens if I wanted it to take different steps depending on what is in the email? So for example, I might only want it to make a Trello card in certain situations, only want it to append text to a document in certain situations. Well, you can do this with an automation, but it's a little bit more complicated. So if we want to have a simple automation, but where there are different options for what the automation can do, then we need to do something like this. And in this case, we are using AI to decide which route the automation should go down. So you can see I have the same new labeled email trigger in this automation, but the next step is AI by Zapier. So here I have linked up to a provider, in this case OpenAI, and I've chosen a model, and then I have a prompt here. So I'm passing in information that comes from the email, so the subject, the body of the email and who it's from, and then I'm asking it to analyze the email content and identify any tasks, action items, or requests, then make a decision on how to handle them. So should it be added to Trello? Should it be added to a meeting document? Should a calendar meeting be scheduled? Then I've asked it to respond with the analysis in this exact format with yes or no, because then the automation is able to react to the response it gives. So if we look here, we can see that path A only continues if the Trello decision from the AI contains yes. Path B only continues if the doc decision from the AI is yes. And path C only if the calendar decision from the AI is yes. So it will take these different paths based on what the AI tells it. But as you can see, this is quite a primitive way of doing things. And if we wanted to add a load more paths for the options it could take, this would quickly become a very hard to manage and complex automation. And that is where AI agents come in. So AI agents are very good at taking unpredictable data such as emails, reading them, and then making decisions on what to do. So this is really a perfect example for where an AI agent would be useful. So here we can see an agent where I have the same trigger, a new labeled conversation in Gmail, but the instructions, instead of being a flow chart of steps it needs to take and passing information and everything, are simply written in English. So I've said, retrieve the emails, identify new tasks, add tasks to the team Trello board in the appropriate list. If you think the item needs further in-depth discussion, then add it to the Google Doc. If you think it needs an urgent meeting, then add a calendar event to my calendar. So rather than explain this one I've already made, let's walk through building this from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is click New Agent up here. Now they have a Copilot, which means you can just type in what you want and it will actually build it for you. But we are going to start from scratch. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a trigger. So I can go in here and I can just search for the app I want. So in my case, it's Gmail. I can scroll down and look at all the different options I have for triggers. Also, I could make it trigger on a new attachment, a new email matching a search, new start email, new conversation. In my case, I'm going to use new labeled email. Then in the next interface, it will ask you to connect your Gmail account. Now I've already connected mine, so it just shows up in the list, but if you need to connect a new account, you simply click connect new account, and as long as you're logged in with your Gmail in the same browser, you can choose the account you want to connect like this, give Zapier permissions, and then it'll be connected. Then the next thing you have to do is choose which label or mailbox you want it to react to. So it's saying, do I want it to react to inbox and all labels? In my case, I don't want that because I don't want it to react to every email I get. So I'm going to scroll down and I already have a label that I created earlier in my Gmail called Agent Taskmaster. And then I'm going to click save. And then the next step is simply to put in the instructions. So I'm going to say, read the email and identify any new task. So it will know what email I'm talking about because the trigger is reacting to a new email. Then I'm going to say, add any tasks to our team Trello board in the appropriate list. So if you remember, in our simple automation, we had to choose the list it was going to add the task to. There was no option to make that dynamic. The great thing about the AI agent is it is able to make that decision for us. So it won't always add it into the backlog list. But if something's urgent, it might add it into the today list, for example. So now that we've mentioned adding it to our Trello board, we still need to tell the AI agent what Trello account to be looking at. So I'm going to click Add Tools, and I'm going to search for Trello. And again, here you'll see all of the actions and triggers you can use in Trello. So the one we want is Create Card. So now I've added that here, I need to click into the settings icon. First, you will need to connect your Trello account. So that's exactly the same as you did with your Gmail. Just click Connect New Account and log into your Trello. And then all of these other things, which with a normal automation, you would have to set specifically all the different values for these different things. The great thing about an agent is you have the option to let your agent select a value for this field. So instead of telling it the list that it has to add it to every time, we can let it decide. However, I would always recommend, if there is something you know is going to be the same every time, you may as well set that value for it so that it doesn't have to make that decision. So I know the board that it's going to be adding to is my Trello board, but rather than selecting a list from the list here, I am going to let the agent choose that, and then I'm going to save it. So that Trello action is now set up. So now I'm going to say, if you think the item needs further in-depth discussion, add it to the monthly meeting agenda in the appropriate Google Doc. Meetings are held at the start of each month. So I've told it that meetings are held at the start of each month because it has the context of the current date. So it will know how long it is till the next meeting, and it will be able to decide accordingly. Then, as I've mentioned Google Doc, I am going to tell it where to find the Google Doc. So Google Doc, and I want it to append text to a document. And now I am just going to select the things that I know will always be the same. So Google Drive, my Google Drive, folder is the root folder, document name. I'm just going to let the agent select a value for this field because I know I have one Google Doc that's called meeting agenda for the next monthly meeting. So it should be able to find that, no problem. So click save on that. Next, I'm going to say, if you think it needs an urgent ad hoc meeting, schedule one in our team calendar as soon as there is space. And then, as I mentioned, the calendar, I need to give it access to my calendar. So Google Calendar. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it this find busy periods in the calendar, because this will enable it to look into the team calendar and decide if there is space for it to make this meeting. So again, I'm going to set the things that I know are always going to be the same. I will set that for it. Start and end time. This is going to be dynamic, so I can leave that. So I'll save that. And then I'm also going to give it access to another tool, which is Google Calendar again, and that's going to be create a detailed event. And here again, connect the Google Calendar account. I'm going to tell it calendar I want it to look at, and then everything else I'm going to leave up to the agent. So that is all done. That has replaced what we saw in this very complicated Zapier. So click agent preview, and the first thing I'm going to do before I click test agent is I'm going to go to my email where I have already sent some test emails to it. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to assign a label. So I'm going to give it the agent taskmaster label here. And you can see this email says login API failing for new users. Hey team, just a heads up, I'm seeing a spike in failed signups from the web app. Looks like our login API is timing out. Can we get eyes on it ASAP? So this is an example of an urgent query. So let's go back to our agent here and click test agent. So the great thing about this is we can see the agent running in real time. So you can see here that it has been triggered on the new labeled email. So if I click the down arrow there, I can actually get the details of the email that it was triggered on. So we can see it is the correct email, and then we can see the actions it's taken. It talks us through it. So it says, I'll analyze the email and complete all the necessary steps to handle the identified tasks. Based on the content, I need to create a Trello card for this urgent task. Since it's critical, I need to schedule an urgent ad hoc meeting, and I'm going to check calendar availability first. So the first thing it does is it's going to create a Trello card, and it gives me a preview of the card it's going to create. It wants to add it to the today list, and it's giving it a name, urgent login API failing. So this all looks good. Now, because we're in test mode, it was going to ask me to approve on each step that it does. But obviously, once you're happy with the agent and you've tested it and you switch it on using this switch here, then you won't need to approve the actions. It will just run by itself. So I'm going to click approve on that. So interestingly, it has failed to create the card. As we can see here, it's getting an error during execution. The app returned invalid object ID. So this is where an ordinary automation would completely fail, because something's happened which it is not prepared for and it doesn't know what to do. So it would just stop. The difference with an AI agent is that it is able to deal with errors like this. So here it's saying, I need to get the correct list ID for the Trello board. Let me try a different approach and use a generic list identifier. So here it's going to try again. We'll approve that. And we can see there from the tick that it looks like it has successfully added that Trello card. So if we go to our Trello board here, yes, we can see it has added it there, and it's put all the description in, and it's given it a due date and everything. So that's great. So let's go back to the agent. So now it is looking in Google Calendar and finding busy periods, and now it has created detailed event, and it's asking me to approve that. So I'm going to approve that. Great. So it looks like that has worked as well. It says, excellent, the urgent meeting has been scheduled for today at 4 p.m. with a Google Meet link. So if I go to my calendar, I can see here 4 p.m. today, emergency meeting to address critical login, and it's given the information there about it. So I didn't tell it to do any of this. It has just done it using its own initiative, which is great. And then now it's saying I need to add this issue to the monthly meeting agenda document for further discussion and follow-up. So it's told me what it's going to append, and I'm going to approve that. And then if we go into our monthly meeting agenda, you can see in real time, it's added the information to the meeting agenda. So we go back to the agent and it tells us all the things it's done. So that's really good. It has run perfectly first time. It has managed to overcome an issue with adding a card to the Trello board and has continued on to solve that issue and complete all the tasks. So you can see here the sheer power of the agent compared to the automation and the lack of complexity in terms of setting it up. So all that would be left now for me to do is to switch this agent on, and then whenever, if I go to my email here, find another email, feedback on onboarding emails, and then I add the label, then that agent is just going to run in the background and take all of those actions that we've asked it to do. And obviously I don't need to be logged into my agent dashboard to see it taking those actions in real time. But as I'm already in here, I can show you that there is this activity feed here. So here you can see all of the activities the agent has done, including ones that are running in real time. So the label I just added to the Gmail, it's probably going to take a few minutes to find that because it doesn't get an instant update from Gmail. It probably checks every couple of minutes. So we may not see that for a little while. But if you did have questions about a certain run, you can click into it and you can see all of the information that we were able to see in the agent testing interface. A couple of other cool things we could do with the agent if we wanted to. So we could also say, send me a Slack message with information about all the actions you've done. And then we just need to add in our Slack, and it will send us a Slack message. So that way we never have to log in here. We always know the actions it's taking. So let's get it to send a channel message, and then I'll just tell it which channel to use. And that's up. That's Slack set up. Another really cool thing you can do with this is you can give it access to data. So for example, if you had a big CRM full of information about all your clients and you wanted it to look at the email and see if it's one of your clients and then find client specific information, you could just say you could give it access to your CRM as a data source. So an example I've got a Google Doc here which just has team profiles for each of the members of my imaginary team. So here I can go back to the agent and I can give it access to that data. Google Doc. So here you see the option knowledge source, which is available on some things like Google Docs and some CRMs and database tools. So this is optimized for AI search. So I can link up the right account and then I can link it to that document, add it as a knowledge source. Use this to choose the most appropriate team member to assign the task to. So instantly it has more context about my team, and you could link it up to all of your HR policies, all of your company policies to ensure that it has all of that knowledge when it's making any decision. You can also have a team of agents that work together. So you have the option here to call another agent. So if I had another agent here whose job it was to do something very specific, I could just say, once you've done all this, call this other agent, give them all the information you've got and let them do their thing. So you can have a team of agents that all work together, all with very specific tasks, but together they can handle very complex workflows. I hope this has been a useful session on automations and AI agents. Remember, there are loads of platforms out there. You don't need to use Zapier, but I personally think it's one of the most user-friendly ones to start with. Have a great day and happy building.